Hello and welcome to the August 24th, 2025 episode of Nick's News. I am your host, Nick, brought to you by Some Budget Studios. That's right, we're putting money into this project of ours. I thank you all so much for tuning in or catching the replay on our Nick's News YouTube page. That's right, we love streaming on YouTube. This is a program dedicated to bringing good news to counter all of the bad news that we are bombarded with on a daily basis, with the hope of bringing a little bit of joy back to the world. Several of our articles are pulled from sites like goodnewsnetwork.org and goodgoodgood.co, but we appreciate everything sent in by you, the Nick's Newsies. Hello and good evening, everybody. Hello, Becky. Hello, Nico. Hello, Charlie. This is going to be a great evening. I think we have 7 great articles that I am looking forward to, and I hope you all are looking forward to them as well. But of course, we will start off with our news brew. So, we're getting towards the end of summer, and my selections will definitely grow darker as time goes on and as things begin to cool off. But since we're still in summer and we've got a few brews to go through before then, we'll bust out this one. And it's best to just Citra Ass Down and enjoy from Against the Grain Brewery. This is an 8.2% ABV Double IPA, and it's a crush or be crushed kind of brew, apparently. My dad picked me up this one, so I am looking forward to it. Everything that I've had from Against the Grain has been fantastic so far, so we'll see how this one suffices. Thank you, Dad. Because it's an IPA, we don't need any special glasses. We just use our Wicked Pissa pub glass for this one. And I'll show you this. I'll get the camera. Citra Ass Down. The artwork on Against the Grain cans is just fantastic. Hey, Rogue. It is a good name. We don't need the Balisong bottle opener because, once again, we don't have a bottle. We're just going to blow the audio, the gain on the audio with a good snap. And we'll get into the theatrics of a 5-minute pour because I don't want all this gas inside me. Fizzy, fizzy, fizzy. Again, just trying to get all that gas out of the brew so it's not going into me. Beautiful golden color on that. We'll let that settle a little bit. And I'll clean up a drop that fell on my keyboard. There we go. So crispity, says Charlie, with the burbles. Lots of burbles. And while we wait for that to settle, we will get into our shout-outs. So first shout-out. Graphics by Ashford specializes in graphic design, video editing and effects, and photo editing. Besides being Nick's News's awesome graphic artist, Grayson bills himself as a bomb-ass bitch. You can contact him through Facebook or his Instagram. Link to his Instagram is in the description. So to Grayson, who we are forever thankful for all of the graphic art that they have produced for us here on Nick's News, cheers. I'm going to turn that so that Wicked Piss is showing up. Ooh, that is a tasty beverage. I definitely err more towards porters and stouts, but I will drink good IPAs from time to time. Huge congratulations to Anthony and Lexi Johnson and Chris and Sarah Wilson for their respective marriage ceremonies. You are all wonderful people. I love you all so much, and I wish you all the best in all of your endeavors. So to both of the happy couples that got married yesterday, and I was able to attend one of those 2 weddings, cheers. I saw something go off. Nope, nothing I need to worry about. All right. If you would like to be added to the list to receive reminders for upcoming shows, please send a message on the Nick's News Facebook page. You just have to say list and we'll get you added. You can request to be removed at any time, so if you get annoyed by them, if you don't find them humorous, I mean, I love every single one of them that producer Donna makes. But if you don't, if you want to be removed, you can be, and that's no problem. We don't sell your information or use it for anything other than this list. It's just to contact you and let you know when we have an upcoming show. We send out reminders on Wednesday, Sunday afternoon, and an hour before the show on Sunday. And we also have the option to send out reminders over Discord if you prefer. We've been following the story of Mommy, and I believe Nick's Newsy Charlie just absolutely had to update us on this, so we will share this update with you. So we've been following the story of Mommy, the Western Santa Cruz Galapagos tortoise at the Philadelphia Zoo. The nearly 100-year-old mom laid a clutch of eggs in January with the help of her live-in boy toy, Abrazo. 3 females hatched in May, and 6 males hatched over June and July. Nick's Newsy Charlie let us know the Philadelphia Zoo has announced a contest to name one of the males. We have included a link below this shout-out that you can go to check it out. We highly recommend that we name it Nick's Newsy, but that's just me. Probably don't want to do that. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. So, to Nick's Newsy Charlie for providing us with that information regarding a naming competition for one of the males. Cheers. Top off my glass with some more Citra Ass Down. All right. So our news quote, I feel like, is a really good one, considering the different ceremonies that went on Saturday and everything else going on right now. The best thing to hold onto in life is each other. That comes from Audrey Kathleen Hepburn, who lived from 1929 to 1993, who was a British actress recognized as a film and fashion icon and a screen legend from the classical Hollywood cinema. And I think that quote isn't just for marriage, it's for all of us. And I absolutely love it in terms of Nick's News and our community that we have here. The best thing to hold onto in life is each other. I absolutely love that quote. So, Audrey Hepburn, thank you very much, and cheers. Bug update. Apologies for not getting any of the images that I had promised posted up to Instagram last week. I will do better this week to get some good ones. I've set myself some reminders, so expect to see some bug shots go up on the Instagram this week. If you don't like bugs, just avoid them. But they are pretty cool in my opinion. So, Elmira has been destroying the new flora that I added to her home. She does not like anything that is green and has decided to bury most of it. There is one stubborn spider plant that she has not killed yet, but I'm pretty sure she is formulating new ways to end its existence. Ripley is a scuttle queen and is still appears to be absolutely loving her new home that we built her, so I'm super happy. I did manage to get a picture of Sue, but it was still with him in his hide. He's just not coming out of there, at least during the hours that I'm active. And I'm not going to just wait up to, ungodly o'clock just to get a picture of him. I can see him well enough in there. I know he's healthy, and he's very big. So when he comes out, when he decides to grace us with his presence, he will. Again, keep an eye out on that terrarium right there. He used to come out during the episodes and would climb up onto that hide. So keep an eye out if you see him. Post Sue in the chat. The roaches are doing very well. My 3 last Madagascar hissers, they're way back in the tank in the corner. They're doing well as the last survivors. So just a trio of roaches. All is well in the bug world. Charlie says, it's not a phase, Dad. # gothbug baby girl. He's a boy, though. He's just throwing a tantrum. Becky says, bug cam. I have been considering what to do with the old webcam. I could figure out how to do a dual cam system. I'm pretty sure I could put it in a corner. I could maybe take up this space that's by this wall. I could do some interesting stuff with a bug cam idea, so we'll look into our options. Oh, Elmira. Yeah, Elmira is definitely. I hate everything of green and is just burying it. Hey, T. I will also. It's funny that T popped in because I was going to say one more thing real quick before we kick off our good news. I have a headache right now. I have a massive headache right now because T and I decided to go see a movie. T is the producer of Dyname, the Daikaiju and Anime podcast, of which I am sometimes a co-host or a voice on it. I really appreciate T for including me in it. It's a great time. We have a blast recording podcast episodes regarding kaiju films, anime, and all sorts of stuff. So we went and saw a movie today. We went and saw Primitive War. I will warn you, that movie is a fever dream built on the foundations of Apocalypse Now and Jurassic Park with the sci-fi of Hellboy thrown in. It is bonkers. And I'm still processing it. So if you're going to go see a film and you want to have a near religious experience and potentially a questioning of whether or not God exists, go see Primitive War. It's wild. T says, hi everyone. By the way, hissing cockroaches are awesome. Yes, they are. All right. That is going to get us into our good news, and our broadcast is broken up into 4 major categories. Those categories are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice articles that we like to end on. So, we are going to start off in category 1, science and technology. I will answer a question real quick. T just asked, what was the better dinosaur movie of 2025, Nick? Jurassic World Rebirth or Primitive War? Well, T, one of those films gave me a migraine. The other one didn't. Since I'm talking about the one that gave me a migraine, I would bet money that my favorite, dinosaur movie of 2025 has been Jurassic World Rebirth. All right, let's get into science and technology. We've got one article in here, and we called it Photovoltaic Foliage. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Wait, what the? Uh-oh. Huh? What the heck is going on here? Why are these split? What? What just happened? There we go. Jeez, that was weird. Can I move this up? Oh, there we go. I am still learning things about OBS. All right, here we go. Solar trees could save forests from deforestation while generating the same power as solar farms. This was published to ZME Science on August 19th of 2025 by Tibi Puyu. Picture a forested hillside stripped bare, replaced by row after row of black solar panels. That's the trade-off many communities face: renewable power at the cost of ecosystems. But a growing body of research suggests it doesn't have to be that way. The solution may look less like an industrial solar farm and more like a forest. Solar trees. Researcher Danbi at the Korea Maritime Institute compared conventional flat panel arrays with solar trees, structures designed to mimic real trees, with panels branching upward like leaves. The results were startling. Linear arrangements of these structures achieve superior power capacity compared to conventional fixed panels while preserving existing forested cover, the team reports. Unlike ground-mounted panels that demand clear cuts, solar trees are built and installed vertically into the canopy. This design allows light to filter down to understory plants while still capturing energy above. In simulations using Google Earth satellite imagery, Dan B. found that solar trees preserved 99% of the forest compared to just 2% left standing when flat panels were installed, all without sacrificing power output. Conventional solar farms need a lot of land. In South Korea, that means cutting forests to install large arrays of flat panel plants, a process that completely destroys the biodiversity of the forest ecosystem, warns. Between 2016 and 2018, deforestation tied to solar farms in the country more than quadrupled. Solar trees sidestep deforestation. By placing them along hiking trails or forest boundaries at 20-meter intervals, the researchers showed that 63 trees outfitted with high-efficiency panels could match 1 megawatt capacity of a conventional plant, all while leaving the forest intact. The advantages, of course, go beyond forests. In cities, solar trees provide shade for pedestrians and cars while generating clean electricity. Some models include charging ports for electric vehicles or benches equipped with wireless charging. Researchers also note their cooling effect in urban heat island zones, where rising summer temperatures threaten public health. This research arrives at a critical moment. Nations have pledged at recent climate summits to triple renewable energy capacity by 2030 while halting deforestation. The problem is that those goals often collide. In South Korea, deforestation tied to solar projects surged from 529 hectares in 2016 to 2,443 hectares in 2018. Similar conflicts play out worldwide from the Amazon to Appalachia. The solutions may lie in designs that treat forests as allies, not obstacles. Solar trees already exist as prototypes, from a 2017 installation outside South Korea's National Assembly to what India's CSIR-CMERI calls the world's largest solar tree, capable of producing 11,500 kilowatt hours annually. Yet until now, most studies looked only at the performance of individual units, not how entire groves of them compared to sprawling panel fields. This study is the first to run that head-to-head test in coastal forests. The economic case is growing too. South Korea has some of the world's highest land prices. Because solar trees require far less ground, they could prove cheaper than paneled farms in countries where land is at a premium. And as solar panel efficiency continues to climb, tree-based installations will only get more competitive. Still, challenges do remain. Few major manufacturers produce panels specifically designed for solar trees, and installation costs remain higher than for flat arrays. Efficiency is limited by shading between branches, though new designs, like helicoidal or sunflower tracking trees, address this issue. The researchers argue that international bodies like the Green Climate Fund or national governments may need to subsidize early adoption. Without that support, companies are unlikely to take the risk of scaling up. Plus, solar trees have some added benefits. They promise landscapes where people can hike, watch birds, or simply rest under shade, all while the forests keep pulling carbon from the air. Solar trees are a promising dual solution to align energy and environmental priorities, the authors conclude. The findings were reported in the journal Scientific Reports, and there is a link to that one in the article. To researcher Dan B. at the Korea Maritime Institute and everybody involved with the design of a potential new green energy solution, solar trees. Cheers. Producer Donna says Japan has several of them as well. The sunflower ones track the sun and stay full face the whole day. That is awesome. All right, that's going to get us out of science and technology. We're going to move on to category 2, health and medicine. We've got one article in here, and we called it, What Doesn't Ozempic Do? I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. I keep hoping he'll come out. Health Canada approves Ozempic to reduce kidney deterioration in people with diabetes. This was published to CTV News on August 19th of 2025 by the Canadian Press. Health Canada has approved Ozempic to reduce the risk of further kidney decline among patients with type 2 diabetes. Between 30 and 50% of people with type 2 diabetes develop some form of chronic kidney disease. An international clinical trial called FLOW showed the risk of kidneys significantly deteriorating or failing was 24% lower in patients taking Ozempic compared to those taking a placebo injection. The patients taking the drug were also less likely to die from cardiovascular disease, another condition that affects many patients with diabetes. The study, funded by Ozempic manufacturer Novo Nordisk, was peer-reviewed and published in the New England Journal of Medicine last year and contributed to Health Canada's decision. Dr. David Cherney, a nephrologist at Toronto General Hospital, helped lead the Canadian part of the trial and says the results show it's possible to reduce the loss of kidney function before patients need dialysis or a kidney transplant. What my patients are scared of is dialysis or a transplant, said Cherney, who is also a senior scientist at the Toronto General Hospital Research Institute, in an interview. I can reasonably reduce the risk and thereby reduce their anxiety and fear of serious complications, not to mention all the cardiovascular disease, which patients are also extremely afraid of, he added. Dr. Ehud an endocrinologist in Vancouver who was not involved in the study, said the results are credible and that Health Canada's approval of Ozempic to help prevent kidney decline is great news. The prevention of kidney disease is a very important goal in the management of patients with type 2 diabetes. And this is another tool, said Dr. who is a professor of endocrinology and metabolism at the University of British Columbia. Ozempic is the brand name of an injectable dose of semaglutide, a glucagon-like peptide 1 or GLP-1 hormone. Ozempic was first approved in Canada as a diabetes medication because it reduces blood sugar. It can also decrease appetite and has been approved as a weight loss drug for people with obesity at a higher dose user under the brand name of Wegovy, which is also manufactured by Novo Nordisk. In an email, Health Canada confirmed to the Canadian press that on August 13th it had approved Ozempic to reduce the risk of sustained estimated glomerular filtration rate, EGFR decline, end-stage kidney disease, and cardiovascular death in adults with type 2 diabetes and chronic kidney disease. That is a weird word. Glomerular filtration rate is a measure that shows how well the kidneys are filtering out waste and excess water. That's fascinating. Ozempic is the first GLP-1 drug approved in Canada to protect both kidneys and the heart in patients with type 2 diabetes, said noting that the cardiovascular benefits of semaglutide have been extensively studied. The benefit of Ozempic is that you also get weight loss, which is a very important goal for most people with type 2 diabetes. That's a very exciting combination, he said. Some people experience gastrointestinal side effects when they take Ozempic, said, including nausea, vomiting, constipation, and diarrhea. Yay, Pepto-Bismol! More severe complications can include gallbladder inflammation and pancreatitis, but most side effects are minor, he said. Charlie says, I'm on Wegovy. It has been a huge assistant for me with weight loss and regulating my kidney issues. Charlie, that's awesome. Becky is also on Wegovy. Very cool. The benefit of slowing or stopping progressive kidney disease in people with diabetes would outweigh the risks of minor side effects, said. The FLOW trial was conducted in 28 countries, including Canada. The researchers randomized 3,533 people with diabetes and chronic kidney disease to either receive Ozempic or a placebo. The study was conducted between 2019 and early 2024. Participants were followed for an average of 3.4 years to monitor for major kidney disease events, including kidney failure leading to dialysis or transplantation, a 50% reduction in kidney function measured by glomerular filtration rate, or death from kidney-related or cardiovascular causes. The Ozempic or placebo doses were given to participants on top of other medications they were taking, including drugs to control blood pressure and blood sugar. Although reducing blood pressure and blood sugar have beneficial effects for the kidneys, Cherney said Ozempic appeared to have an additional positive impact on kidney function, and future research can help pinpoint how that works. Another weapon against kidney disease is incredibly powerful, and these medicines will often turn patients around who are doing very poorly because it addresses so many different issues: the kidney, the cardiovascular, the metabolic, and the weight, said Cherney. Said it's possible Ozempic could play a role in reducing inflammation in the kidneys, and that might be one explanation for its positive effect. Regardless of the reasons for its effectiveness, he said FLOW trial and Health Canada's approval reinforces the importance of using the drug relatively early in the disease process to minimize kidney damage in people with type 2 diabetes. That is really cool. To everybody involved in a gigantic study that found that Ozempic not only helps with weight loss, but also helps with cardiovascular disease and kidney damage. Cheers. Charlie says, I love that the shots are easy to use. I have trypanophobia, so the fact that I can't see or feel it is fantastic. That's really cool. I'm not 100% sure what trypanophobia is. If that's a fear of needles, then I've got a low-key one too. I actually had to give blood this previous week, and I still have this tiny little bruise from it. I don't think it was the phlebotomist's fault at all. I think it was just a bad vein day, really. So, Becky says, oh, I never feel fear of... Okay, Charlie confirmed it's fear of needles. So yeah, I got a low-key trypanophobia as well. Hello, Yathena. Okay, that's going to take us out of health and medicine. We're going to move on to category 3, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals. And this first article was sent in by Mona. Mona, thank you so much. We called it Birds of a Different Feather Still Flock Together. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. How's the camera doing tonight? Is it looking fuzzy for anybody, or are we looking good? Charlie said, every time I have to get blood work done, I chant, I'm a big brave dog, I'm a big brave dog, like Chucky from Rugrats. That's adorable and awesome. Do whatever you need to do to, psych yourself up, get pumped, and be able to combat those fears. Charlie says, I look clear. Okay, cool. Thank you, Charlie. All right, a beautifully blended family. Sandhill cranes take goose under their wing. This was published to Wisconsin Public Radio on July 31st of 2025 by Danielle Kading. Becky says you're good. Donna also says you're crisp. For the past 8 years, Madison residents and wildlife photographer Allen Ginsberg has been following 8 pairs of sandhill cranes at a half a dozen nesting sites in Dane County. One pair in particular comes back to a smaller pond close to friends of his who live on the city's west side. Since April, Ginsberg and his friends have watched as the birds laid a pair of eggs in a nest on the banks of the pond, with one hatching into a fluffy colt. Not long after, water levels rose from recent rains and flooded the nest. It's unclear what happened to the other egg, but the birds soon went in search of a new home. They took up residence in the nest of a pair of Canada geese, forcing those birds to go elsewhere. It soon became clear, though, that a goose egg had remained behind, because it hatched into a gosling. All of a sudden, we had the rather strange sight here of a sandhill crane mother with 2 chicks, one being a Canada gosling and the other being a sandhill crane colt, Ginsberg said. Ginsberg said the cranes immediately accepted the gosling as their own. For about a week, the geese protested and surrounded the nest, but the father sandhill crane would chase them off any time they got too close. And if you've ever seen a sandhill crane, they are terrifying. They are the height of a small child. When they spread their wings, it is like seeing something out of the prehistoric era. Something that Tia and I saw when we watched Primitive War earlier. It is nightmare fuel. After a week or so, the geese left the pond, Ginsburg said, and the new blended family, shall we say, had the pond to themselves. Becky says, I will have to catch the rest on replay. I can barely keep my eyes open. Have a great week, everyone. Thank you very much, Becky. I greatly appreciate you. Thank you for tuning in. Ginsburg has been documenting the birds at least twice a week with the delight of neighbors and citizens beyond the state's capital city. After 12 weeks, the gosling is almost a full-grown goose, and the crane colt is larger than his mother, but the family remains together. Over time, Ginsburg said their following has only grown as he documents their daily routine, capturing around 2,000 photos. In the evenings, the birds retreat into the reeds, disappearing back into the pond. In the mornings, they emerge and trek into the backyards of up to 24 homes, checking out the bird feeders. The four cross the street in a line that Ginsburg finds reminiscent of a famous Beatles album cover. I call it the Albee Road Procession, Ginsburg said. Ginsburg said he observed the father trying to feed a frog to the goose, which couldn't get away from it quickly enough. Even the colt couldn't get the frog down when offered, and the amphibian fell back into the pond. As omnivores, sandhill cranes typically feed on seed, grains, frogs, and snakes. Geese are largely herbivores, though, and prefer grass and aquatic plants. Even so, the birds seem to have adjusted to each other's diets and physical differences. The long-legged cranes will stop and wait for the goose that waddles along on its stubby legs while they're out roaming the neighborhood. While weeks have passed, Ginsburg said the mother is still looking out for the goose, bringing food or breaking up fights between it and the young colt. Ginsburg's grandkids have named the colt Copper and the goose Goldie. He's mulling the possibility of a book to chronicle their adventures. T says, cranes and herons are basically just modern pterodactyls. Preach. While uncommon, the International Crane Foundation's Ann Lacey said several instances have been observed of sandhill cranes adopting a goose into their fold. Lacey, director of Eastern Flyway Programs North America, said a crane family adopted a gosling last year in the Lake Wingra area of Madison. And the organization is hearing more instances of such cases, including a Minnesota couple who documented a similar family near their lakeside home. Lacey said it's believed the same goose returned to the crane family each year. They share space amicably, and then the goose actually paired naturally with another goose and raised its own family right next to the assumed same crane family that raised it, Lacey said. Minnesota couple Martha Harding and Gary Noren authored a children's book to document the family, and there's a link in the article to that children's book. Lacey said it's likely people will report more such cases since both cranes and geese reside in developed areas. The populations of both birds have also rebounded in Wisconsin. More recent data estimates the breeding population of Canada geese in Wisconsin is more than 181,000 birds. Fall surveys from 2018 to 2022 show Wisconsin has around 51,000 sandhill cranes. That is awesome. In observed cases in Madison and Michigan, the families parted ways when the adopted geese died. Ginsburg said he's observed Copper and Goldie beginning to take flight for about 10 yards at a time, raising the question of whether the family will stay together when they eventually migrate. We all want a happy ending where they all literally fly off into the sunset, Ginsburg said. Nico said, wow, I remember when I saw a big white farm goose with Canadian geese and thought that was wild. As Ginsburg continued to observe the family, he has started printing small blank note cards displaying his photos that people can buy. He said a portion of the proceeds will go to benefit the International Crane Foundation. He's raised about half his goal of $1,000. If there's anything he's taken away from watching this family, Ginsburg said it's that the birds have shown there's no reason to fear those who are different. You have this beautifully blended family growing up as if everything is normal. Nothing should be different, Ginsburg said. You've got these birds who are so accepting of one another. I think we can all take a couple of lessons from that attitude. To Madison resident and wildlife photographer Allen Ginsburg for capturing photos for this event, and to the family of sandhill cranes that adopted a gosling into their midst. Birds of different feathers flock together. Cheers. Charlie says, now I want to watch Wild Robot. All right, we call this next one Like Watching History Breathe. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. There we go. Joy and relief as lotus flowers bloom again in Kashmiri Lake after 3 decades. This was published to goodnewsnetwork.org on August 18th of 2025 by Andy Corbley. Lotus flowers are blooming again in Kashmir's historically largest lake, having been freed from the grasp of underwater silt that strangled them for 3 decades. The lake had already been shrunk dramatically by the conversion of shoreline and connected marshlands to agricultural areas by 1990. But in 1992, catastrophic flooding dumped thousands of tons of sediment into the lake, burying the lotus plant stems. These stems formed a major part of the local diet, and at the height of its productivity, the cottage industry of harvesting them sustained 5,000 local workers. The stems were cooked and served in several dishes, but the silt ended all of that. At the turn of the 20th century, Wural Lake spanned 84 square miles, but by 2007 it had diminished to just 1/3 of that. Willow cultivation along the banks ensured that over-sedimentation of the lake bottom continued. Parts of it became dumping grounds, and more of the lake's fauna vanished. By 2020, the local communities had had enough. With the taste of the lotus stems having been reduced to a fragment of memory for the old, and a solemn children's story for the young, the Wular Conservation and Management Authority, or the WUCMA, began a desilting program. Fed by the Jhelum River and its tributaries, WUCMA focused on controlling and preventing pollution from entering the lake through its flow, before beginning the long, slow, slimy process of dredging the lake. 5 years on, a mind-boggling 8 million cubic meters of silt have been removed. The lotus roots that remained dormant all that time emerged, and for the first time in 33 years, the plants are flowering again. This is not just the revival of a plant, it's the resurrection of a cultural ecosystem, Meera Sharma, a Delhi-based environmentalist, told The Guardian. When nature heals, it revives everything it once nurtured: livelihoods, traditions, biodiversity. Seeing these flowers bloom again after decades is like watching history breathe. While the lake was an important local tourist destination and cultural connection to the land, as Sharma says, many are looking forward again to eating their favorite dish, nadru. Lotus stem connects our food to the land. Now that it's back, we're preparing dishes the way our grandmothers did: slow, simple, and full of memory. Tavir Ahmad, a chef at a local Kashmiri market, told The Guardian's Tausif Ahmad and Sajid Raina. To everybody involved in the WUCMA for clearing out silt from Kashmiri Lake and allowing the lotus flowers to bloom once again for the first time in 33 years. Cheers. All right, one more article here in Flora and Fauna. This is an All the Buzz article. So I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. Brenna says, cheers to the lotus. Scientists found the missing nutrients bees need. Colonies grew 15-fold. This was published to Science Daily on August 23rd of 2025 by the University of Oxford. A new study led by the University of Oxford in collaboration with Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, University of Greenwich, and the Technical University of Denmark could provide a cost-effective and sustainable solution to help tackle the devastating decline in honeybees. An engineered food supplement designed to provide essential compounds found in plant pollen was found to significantly enhance colony reproduction. The results were published on August 20th in the journal Nature. Climate change and agricultural intensification have increasingly deprived honeybees of the floral diversity they need to thrive. Pollen, the major component of their diet, contains specific lipids called sterols that are necessary for their development. Increasingly, beekeepers are feeding artificial pollen substitute to the bees due to insufficient natural pollen. However, these commercial supplements, made of protein flour, sugar, and oils, lack the right sterol compounds, making them nutritionally incomplete. Nico says, I love hearing good news about the bees. Charlie says, whoop whoop, that's the sound of bumping bees. Whoop whoop. In a new study, the research team succeeded in engineering the yeast Yarrow lipolytica to produce a precise mixture of 6 key sterols that bees need. This was then incorporated into diets fed to bee colonies during 3-month feeding trials. These took place in enclosed glass houses to ensure the bees only fed on the treatment diet. By the end of the study period, colonies fed with the sterol-enriched yeast had reared up to 15 times more larvae to the viable pupal stage compared with colonies fed control diets. Colonies fed with the enriched diet were more likely to continue rearing brood up to the end of the 3-month period, whereas colonies on sterol-deficient diets ceased brood production after just 90 days. Notably, the sterol profile of larvae in colonies fed the engineered yeast matched that found in naturally foraged colonies, suggesting that bees selectively transfer on only the most biologically important sterols to their young. Senior author Professor Geraldine Wright, Department of Biology, University of Oxford, said, "Our study demonstrates how we can harness synthetic biology to solve real-world ecological challenges. Most of the pollen sterols used by bees are not available naturally in quantities that could be harvested on a commercial scale, making it otherwise impossible to create nutritionally complete feed that is a substitute for pollen." Lead author Dr. Eleanor Moore, the Department of Biology, University of Oxford at the time of the study, now Delft University of Technology, added, "For bees, the difference between the sterol-enriched diet and conventional bee feeds would be comparable to the difference for humans between eating balanced, nutritionally complete meals and eating meals missing essential nutrients like essential fatty acids. Using precision fermentation, we are now able to provide bees with a tailor-made feed that is nutritionally complete at the molecular level." That's really cool. Before this work, it was unclear which of the diverse sterols in pollen were critical for bee health. To answer this, the researchers chemically assessed the sterol composition of tissue samples harvested from pupa and adult bees. This required some extraordinarily delicate work. For instance, dissecting individual nurse bees to separate the guts. The analysis identified 6 sterol compounds that consistently made up the majority of bee tissue. 24, oh god, here we go with the scientific names. Prep. Blah blah blah. Flub flub flub. Here we go. 24 methylene cholesterol, campesterol, isofucosterol, beta-cytosterol, cholesterol, and desmosterol. Whew! Saying words like that is a workout. Charlie says, "So it's like pre-workout for bees." I'm here for it. I hope that they make it so we can buy it in stores. Our hummingbird feeders have been seeing a great deal of activity from bees too. Mine have been too. My hummingbird feeder was going gangbusters with the bee population around me. So, yeah, it'd definitely be interesting if I could set up a bee feeding station with some of this stuff. Using CRISPR-Cas9 gene editing, something we've talked about quite a bit, the researchers then engineered the yeast Yarrow lipolytica to produce these sterols in a sustainable and affordable way. Why lipolytica was selected since this yeast has a high lipid content, has been demonstrated as food safe, and is already used to supplement aquaculture feeds. To produce the sterile-enriched supplement, engineered yeast biomass was cultured in bioreactors, harvested, then dried into a powder. Co-author Professor Irina Borodina, the NNF Center for Biosustainability, Technical University of Denmark, said, "We chose oleaginous yeast Yarrow lipolytica as the cell factory because it's excellent at making compounds derived from acetyl-CoA, such as lipids and sterols, and because this yeast is safe and easy to scale up. It is used industrially to produce enzymes, omega-3 fatty acids, stevioglycosides as calorie-free sweeteners, and pheromones for pest control and other products. So we're already using it quite a bit. Pollinators like honeybees contribute to the production of over 70% of leading global crops. Severe declines caused by a combination of nutrient deficiencies, climate change, mite infestations, viral diseases, and pesticide exposure poses a significant threat to food security and biodiversity." Charlie says, "Oh gods, where's the counter? Or are we drinking for every engineering?" For instance, over the past decade, annual commercial honeybee colony losses in the U.S. have typically ranged between 40 and 50% and could reach 60 to 70% in 2025. This new engineered solution or supplement offers a practical means to enhance colonies' resilience without further depleting natural floral resources. Since the yeast biomass also contains beneficial proteins and lipids, it could potentially be expanded into a comprehensive bee feed. Dirty Rogue says, engineering. Co-author Professor Phil Stevenson, RBGQ and Natural Resources Institute, University of Greenwich, added, "Honeybees are critically important pollinators for the production of crops such as almonds, apples, and cherries, and are so present in some crop locations in very large numbers, which can put pressure on limited wildflowers. Our engineered supplement could therefore benefit wild bee species by reducing competition for limited pollen supplies." Daniel Downey, executive director of honeybee research nonprofit Project Apis M, not affiliated with the study, said, "We rely on honeybees to pollinate 1 in 3 bites of our food, yet bees face many stressors. Good nutrition is one way to improve their resilience to these threats, and in landscapes with dwindling natural forage for bees, a more complete diet supplement could be a game changer. This breakthrough discovery of key phytonutrients that, when included in feed supplements, allow sustained honeybee brood rearing has immense potential to improve outcomes for colony survival, and in turn the beekeeping businesses we rely on in our food production. While these initial results are promising, further large-scale field trials are needed to assess long-term impacts on colony health and pollination efficacy. Potentially, the supplement could be available to farmers within 2 years. This new technology could also be used to develop dietary supplements for other pollinators or farmed insects, opening new avenues for sustainable agriculture." Charlie says, "It's a good thing I'm working on my water." Dirty Rogue says, "We need stickers and Nick is keeping us hydrated." You're darn right I'm keeping you hydrated with the right moisture. To everybody involved in this study, from the University of Oxford, the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, University of Greenwich, and the Technical University of Denmark, for the production of a very cool bee feed supplement that can help prevent colony collapse and also help keep the bees well fed. Cheers. Brenna says, "I could have used that to save the carpenter bee I found last week suffering from pesticides. RIP. I'm sorry to hear that. I do my best to protect the carpenter and mason bees that I've got around my house. All right, so that's going to get us out of flora and fauna. We are going to move on to our final category, the wholesome notes, the really nice articles that we like to end on. So our first one here, we have a Saviors of All Ages article, and I will copy and paste this into the chat if you all want to read along. Mayanaka says, I have a full family of bees feeding on my onion bulb flowers daily. That is awesome! And Dirty Rogue has ideas for an engineering sticker. Alright, let's get into this article. Teens rescued dogs from burning home in West Jordan. This was published to KSL TV 5 on August 20th of 2025 by Debbie Worthen. 2 homes were destroyed in a fast-moving fire on... I'm having a brain fart. I don't think I toasted Mona for sending us in that article about the birds. I apologize. We'll get back into the article, but I want to say, Mona, thank you very much for sending in that article regarding the cranes and the gosling. All right, now back to the article. Two homes were destroyed in a fast-moving fire on Jackling Drive, but thanks to quick-thinking teens who lived nearby, 2 family dogs were saved from the flames. The fire broke out suddenly, sending thick smoke into the neighborhood. A group of teens living just a few houses down didn't hesitate to jump into action. Without a second thought, we just jumped the fence, one of the teens said. We got down there to see if we could help, see what we could do. As they approached the burning homes, the situation escalated. When we got down there, the propane tanks exploded, another teen recalled. The boys ran to a neighboring house and saw a truck in the driveway, but no one was coming out. Our first thought was, oh crap, somebody is in there, one said. Ring doorbell footage captured the teens pounding on the door. When they looked through the window, they saw a dog inside. We kicked down the door, one teen said. Moments later, the footage shows the teens carrying 2 dogs to safety. At the house next door, Jaden Sessions was in his backyard when he heard a strange sound. I heard like a wishing sound from the back of their house, Sessions said. Seconds later, I saw the flames. He ran to alert the person inside and made sure his fiancée, dog, and cars were safe. Everyone was out. Everyone was coming to make sure everyone was okay, Sessions said. He said it was really moving to see how much people stepped in to help. The teens said they wouldn't hesitate to do it all over again. Just how grateful the family was. It made you feel good inside, one said. Firefighters said the cause of the fire is still under investigation. Meanwhile, neighbors have set up a GoFundMe to support one of the families affected, and I believe that GoFundMe does have a link. Yes, it is a link in the article. It does not list the names of the teens. There is a video that I did not watch that might include it. But to those teens who jumped into action into a burning home to rescue 2 dogs, saviors of all ages. Cheers. All right, and now we've got our last article of the night, and we called this one Lego Oma Builds Bright. I will copy and paste this into the chat if y'all want to read along. As some of you know, I am an avid fan of Legos. I have been my whole life. I love building things. I've got a couple Lego structures out in my living room, just odds and ends. This is taking it to a whole different level, though. So, German grandma builds wheelchair ramps from Legos to make her town more accessible and colorful. This was published to goodgoodgood.co on August 18th of 2025 by Megan Cook. Nico says, I love Lego. 30 years ago, Rita Ebel was in a car accident that left her with incomplete paralysis. In the decades since, the 67-year-old has gone through 2 divorces and survived cancer. But Ebel, who is quick with a laugh and often wears a smile, prefers to look on the bright side of things. There is no situation that is just bad, Ebel told Ability magazine. We all need to find this tiny good part in the negative circumstances ourselves. As an ambulatory wheelchair user, Ebel can walk short distances but largely relies on her wheelchair to get around. But in her hometown of Hanau, Germany, Ebel found that most businesses were inaccessible to her after her accident. The owners of the shops would always tell me that I could simply knock on the door and then they will help me get in and out. They will help me to get in, Ebel explained. They thought this wasn't a problem. However, Ebel countered, if you are an active wheelchair user who is used to being independent, you aren't going to stop in front of the door, knock, and ask for help. So she took matters into her own hands, building wheelchair ramps of her own design, not out of wood, concrete, or steel, but something more colorful. Lego bricks. But at the time, when select Lego sets regularly cost over $100, Ebel said that she was quickly priced out of her building materials. Getting the Legos is actually the hardest part, Ebel said. People who have Lego at home usually don't want to give them up because it's something that goes through all generations. And if I do get Legos, the pieces are often not suitable for my ramps because I need the basic building blocks. But these days, most of the Legos belong to a Lego Friends or Star Wars set. So she took to social media and did something she rarely allowed herself to do. Ask for help. My first donor asked how many pieces of Lego I would need to finish my very first ramp, Ebel said. I responded that I was afraid I might need around 1,000 Legos to begin with. Shortly after, he came to me with 2 huge boxes filled with Lego. Since her endeavor began in 2019, Ebel has made countless ramps and gained global recognition as Lego Oma, which in German is Lego Grandma. She's delivered ramps to sweet shops, breweries, pet shops, and everything in between, slowly making Hanau more accessible brick by brick. Legally, German laws mandate that official wheelchair ramps allow for a 6% incline or less. Ebel's ramps don't quite meet the mark. This would mean that if the ramp has to overcome a 15-centimeter step, it could be a few meters long. And that's often not possible because the sidewalk doesn't offer enough space, Ebel explained. I think the building code here in the States is generally like, it is 1 foot for every 1 inch of incline. So that's why you see ramps being super long to get, or like snaking to get up to certain heights. But don't quote me on that. It's been a while since I had to do construction. So our ramps don't qualify as wheelchair ramps, but all city officials support our work and don't complain, she added. But in the end, the wheelchair users don't care much about regulations if the ramp allows them to independently enter and exit the shop. Like many disability initiatives, the added accessibility benefits everyone in the community. From parents with strollers to people on crutches, the ramps play a heavy role in whether customers even consider stepping into stores. And the colorful patterns are a visual aid for those with low vision, an early cue that an incline is ahead. Typically, it only takes Ebel 3 to 4 hours to build a ramp. But since the donations have poured in, it's not necessarily a matter of time, it's a matter of storage. Fortunately, her landlord offered her a second basement room solely reserved for Lego. And the donations keep coming. Earlier this month, I had a visit from the Terminal for Kids Kindergarten Rainbow Land from Babenhausen, who brought us their assorted Lego bricks Ebel posted on Instagram in February, alongside photos of her surrounded by beaming kindergartners. The children were very excited about the Lego ramp, driveway assistance, and the amount of Lego bricks in the workshop. Thanks again to the daycare for the Lego donation. That is awesome. To the Lego Oma, Rita Ebel, for constructing ramps out of Legos to help those in wheelchairs or with mobility assistance requirements. Cheers. That is awesome. All right. We thank you all again for tuning in or catching the replay on the Nix News YouTube page. 7 amazing articles tonight, and I Absolutely love going through these. This kind of Hope Core stuff is amazing. Again, we're live every Sunday, and our next episode will be on August 31st of 2025. I encourage participation, so if you feel inclined, you can message or post suggestions for news brews, shoutouts, news quotes, and especially good news articles that we can present on future episodes of our show. If you send us a bunch of articles, we appreciate if you spread them out across our categories, and those 4 major categories, again, are science and technology, health and medicine, flora and fauna, aka plants and animals, and wholesome notes, the really nice ones we like to end on, like Lego Oma. You can message us on Facebook or Instagram, or you can email us at somebudgetstudios@gmail.com. Links are in the description of our videos. Feel free to like, subscribe, or comment on our Facebook and YouTube videos, on our Instagram posts, on our TikToks, to get good news and joy out into all the algorithms. Please, no SEO improvement advertisements. We are not looking for anything of that sort. But really, just all the interaction that y'all have done continues to grow Nick's News. We are up at 103 subscribers on YouTube. We crossed the 100 mark before last episode. I can't thank you all enough. This is incredible. I did not see this happening. So it's been amazing. And yeah, all that like, subscribe, comment, just follow our content and let us know how we're doing. You know, we read everything. So everything y'all do helps continue to grow Nick's News and make it the amazing Hope Core content that it is. Yeah, T says, glad I could make it to the stream. This was fun. Thank you very much, T. And Charlie says, good episode as always. Have a good night, everyone. And also thank you for putting up with my shenanigans. As always, thank you again. I love you all. Have a great night. And I will play us out.